subject of my talk is obstacles and hazards in meditation. There is a saying in Sanskrit, Shreyangsi Bahubhignani. If you want to do something which is noble or something which is very good, then there will be many obstacles. So, meditation is not easy. There are many obstacles in meditation also. And one has to learn how to meditate from a proper teacher. Jesus Christ lamented by saying, in the world there are many false prophets. If there is only one genuine teacher of spirituality, then there will be at least a few hundred questionable teachers who are not fit to teach. So now let me come back to the subject. The subject is obstacles and hazards in meditation. To learn to meditate is a great thing, because through meditation we can eventually know our divinity. All the theistic scriptures of the world say that God is omnipresent. God is present everywhere. Therefore God must be present in every one of us. But that God is not experienced. And to experience God, some efforts will be needed. And meditation is one of the techniques with the help of which we can experience our divinity. In the scriptures of Hinduism, there is a saying, Uttishtata, Jagrata, Praipya Varan Nibodhata. That is, make effort to arise. Why? Because we are so many somnambulists. And wake up. And finding the superior ones, be spiritually illumined. That means get to know that you are divine. Who are the superior ones? The superior ones are the divine incarnations. Like Krishna, Rama, Buddha, Jesus Christ, and Ramakrishna, and Sarada Devi at the present age. They have been declared, Ramakrishna has been declared to be a divine incarnation by experts who knew all the signs and symptoms of a divine incarnation. And those signs and symptoms are recorded in our holy books. With the help of that, they determined that Sri Ramakrishna was a divine incarnation. But he was humility personified, as all divine incarnations should be. So, he did not go about telling people that he was a divine incarnation. But he indeed was one, because he had all the signs and symptoms of a divine incarnation as mentioned in our scriptures. Let me see what they teach us, these divine incarnations. So according to them, some obstacles may be encountered when trying to meditate. In one book, it is mentioned that there are 4 obstacles: laya, vikshepa, kashaya and rasaswada. These are all Sanskrit terms. Laya means sleep. When a person tries to meditate, the person will often fall asleep. Such sleep, even though short, may be very deep sleep. It's called laya. And due to sleep, one will not be able to do meditation. So this is an obstacle. And the goal of meditation is experiencing in divinity in oneself, and when a person experiences divinity, then that person is said to be in samadhi, completely melted away in the ocean of divinity. And so that is a very peaceful condition. And what is peace, I should tell you. Peace is not joy or enjoyment or pleasure. This world, according to Hindu philosophers, is a world of pairs of opposites. While there is darkness, there should be light. Where there is joy, there should be sadness or sorrow. So also, if there is enjoyment, there should be suffering. These two form a pair. Let us consider a person who is suffering from an intense headache. So he is in a state of suffering. Then he takes some painkillers. And after 1 hour, his headache is gone. In what state is he now? Is he enjoying pleasure? Because he was suffering, so the opposite of suffering is enjoyment. No, he is neither suffering nor enjoying. He has found relief from both. This relief is comparable to peace. Peace does not belong to any pair of opposites. That's why in our scriptures, the word peace, the Sanskrit counterpart of that is shanti, is there in the scriptures in many, many places. Shanti, peace. So one finds peace when one is in samadhi. So one of our swamis used to be there in Europe, and some students used to come to him, some people used to come to him. And one day, one person came to him, and he was very excited, that person. He said, "Swami, I have had samadhi." Then on inquiry, the Swami came to understand that what that person had was not samadhi, it was he had encountered that obstacle called laya. While trying to meditate, he fell asleep. And he thought that sleep was samadhi. And the Swami explained that to that person. But that person didn't like it, so he went to some other teacher. So laya, that is the first obstacle. And then how to counteract that? Well, one should not try to meditate when one is tired physically, because this laya frequently will come to that person. It is best to try to meditate early in the morning after sleep. Then this obstacle will not trouble that person. Or if one wants to meditate in the evening, then that person should better try to sleep for at least 1 hour before trying to meditate. Otherwise this laya will not allow this person to meditate. And the second obstacle is wandering of the mind. Wandering of the mind keeps on wandering. It is restless, so to say. And so how to counteract it? Well, by using willpower. No, I won't allow my mind to wander from here and there. That is one method. But not everyone can be able to do that. So there is another method which is easier and quite effective. That is, the meditator, one who is meditating, should allow his or her mind to wander. Said, okay, go and wander, I will watch you. So the meditator will say to the mind, go and wander wherever you want to go, but I will keep on watching you. And if that is done within a short period of time, the mind will become calm and will be fit for meditation. The third obstacle is reluctance to practice meditation. Intense reluctance. And why that reluctance comes? It is said that our mind is the repository of all the thoughts that we think. That's why I can remember what I was given to eat for dinner last night. Or a person can remember past events. How is it possible? Because those past thoughts are all present in the mind. And remembrance means pulling those thoughts up to the conscious level. That is remembering. So, all the thoughts that we have thought in our life, they get accumulated in the mind. And there was a Swami here. He worked in this country for a number of years. Then he was transferred to India. He was a good friend of mine. He used to say that most people fill their minds with garbage. Garbage. By that he referred to those who are not interested in spiritual progress. They fill their minds with garbage. That garbage means thoughts which are not conducive to spiritual growth. The TV, the newspapers, and all these things. From that people collect all those thoughts. And Sri Ramakrishna could not touch newspaper. And that was so many years ago. He used to say newspapers are full of lies. That's why he could not touch. So the mind has to be filled with thoughts of God. That we can do by chanting the holy name of God or by thinking of God. And if such thoughts be many thousand in number, then they will somewhat counteract those garbage that is in our minds. That's why when a person came to Sri Ramakrishna, he said to that person, and the person wanted to know the goal of life. Sri Ramakrishna said the goal of life is to experience divinity. But how to do it? By chanting the holy name of God and having the company of holy people. That is, getting to know some saintly souls and having their company. And chanting the holy name. A person who should go on chanting millions of times, and all those thoughts of God will be accumulated in the mind. And eventually they will counteract the garbage which is there already stored up in the mind. And then naturally the tendency will come to think of God or to meditate. This reluctance to practice meditation is caused by that garbage which the Swami used to call. That means those thoughts which are not thoughts of God. And if that comes, then what should one do? Is there any other method? Reluctance to practice meditation, can it be counteracted? Yes, there is another method. The method is to sing devotional songs or listen to devotional songs. That can help. And then the mind will become calm, and then the person will be able to meditate. That's how the third obstacle, which is reluctance to practice meditation, can be overcome. For the time being, I mean. And the fourth obstacle is rasaswada, which means getting stuck in an intermediate joyful experience. Person while trying to meditate and who has meditated for many years has been able to change that person's mind. And then some spiritual experience may come, but that experience is not the ultimate spiritual experience. That means the ultimate spiritual experience is experiencing one's divinity. That has not come yet. But that person gets stuck in the intermediate joyful experience and doesn't want to proceed further. So, what should that person do? There is a story. There was a woodcutter in India, and he used to go to the forest and cut wood, branches of trees, and would bring them home and sell them and make a meager living. Then one day, while he was cutting wood, a holy man came there. The holy man said, "Why are you here? Go forward, then you'll get better wood." And so saying, the holy man went away. And this person, this woodcutter, thought, okay, let me listen to this holy man. He seems to be saintly. So then he went further ahead and found a forest full of sandalwood trees. Sandalwood is considered quite precious. Then he cut the branches of many of those trees and brought home. And so while after selling them, he got a lot of money. And he was quite satisfied. But then, while cutting sandalwood, the branches of sandalwood trees, a thought came this: holy man did not ask me to stop here. He said, go further ahead. So let me go further. Then he went further ahead. And he found a copper mine. And those ores he brought home, and he got quite a bit of, much more money. Then again, he remembered what the holy man had asked him to do. He said, he asked me to go further ahead. He went further ahead and found a silver mine and became richer. But he didn't stop there. He went further ahead and found a gold mine, and that made him very, very rich. But he didn't stop there. He remembered the words of the holy man and went further ahead and found a diamond mine, and that made him exceedingly rich. So also, experiencing divinity is like finding diamond mine. A person's. So a person should not stop. By getting some intermediate spiritual experience. That is pleasant, of course, but no, one should not stop. Until and unless that person has experienced divinity, that person should go on striving. And in another book, in Hinduism, another saint teaches or talks about 5 obstacles. In Sanskrit, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. In English, avidya means forgetting one's own divine nature. That is an obstacle. All the theistic religions teach that God is omnipresent, so God must be present in you, me, and everyone else, in every object and thing. God is equally present, but not equally manifested. In non-living objects, God is equally present, but not manifested at all. In living objects, such as human beings or animals, or even say God's manifestation is a little more. And there are some people in whom God's manifestation is very, very high. We have told that many times by saying that we are like so many light bulbs. Light is divinity, but not all light bulbs have the same wattage. Some are 5-watt light bulbs, some are 10-watt light bulbs, some are 100-watt light bulbs, and there are some who are 1,000-watt light bulbs. So they have more manifestation of divinity in them. And what is divinity? Divinity is total unselfishness. That is divinity. There is no divinity there is no selfishness in divinity. Because divinity is beyond the ego. And I will explain that later. So, there are some multi-trillion watt light bulbs. They are very rare. They are the divine incarnations. Their external form is only a thin veneer around their divinity. So forgetting one's own divine nature is an obstacle. And how to get over it doing spiritual practice and eventually manifest divinity. And the second obstacle is egoism, or false identification with the body-mind complex. As I often say, the owner and the object owned cannot be the same. So, if I own a car, I cannot be that car because I am the owner. So I own my body, I own my sense organs, I own my motor organs, and I own my mind. So I cannot be any one of them. I cannot be my mind also. But somehow the idea of my individual existence is present in my mind as the thought which we call ego. There is a thought of the conscious mind, I. But as owners of our minds, we cannot be our minds. So we have to get rid of our ego. That's why in our order, some elderly Swami advised a young man who had just joined the order. He said, you know, the name of the order which you have joined, and in India our order is called Ramakrishna Mission. Then the young man says, yes sir, I know, that is Ramakrishna Mission. Then the elderly Swami said to him, no, it is not Ramakrishna Mission, it is Ramakrishna Machine. What kind of machine? Ego-crushing machine. That ego, as long as we have our ego, we are not divinity. So, when the ego is crushed, divinity will become manifest. So that's why this order, according to that Swami, should be called Ramakrishna Machine, ego-crushing machine. So, one who experiences divinity, he goes beyond egoism. There is false identification with the body-mind complex. And according to that sage who mentioned these 5 obstacles, there is the third obstacle, which is raga, attachment to pleasurable things. It is very common. A child is attached to a piece of chocolate or a piece of candy or a doll. These are all pleasurable things. So a grown-up person who wants to practice meditation may be attached to other pleasurable objects and things, or even persons, pleasurable persons. So one should. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that there are 2 big obstacles in spiritual life. One is lust, the other one is gold. Excuse me. So objects which encourage lustfulness, they can be very pleasurable. So one should give up those attachment to those objects or persons. And then the other obstacle is desha, aversion to painful things. There are some people who are very conscious of what other people say about them. So I know a person who stopped going to a church because in that church, she is a lady actually. In that church, some other lady said something which was not very pleasant. That's why she stopped going to the church. She wanted to hear only pleasant things, I think. or aversion to painful things. Once one lady came to me and said, Swami, I won't come to this church, your church anymore. I said, why? He said, here nobody greets me when I come. Then I said to her, oh, I understand that, but do you greet others? Why should I greet them? They should greet me first. That lady said. I said, others also may think that way about you. She didn't like these arguments. And she stopped coming to our temple, church. So, there are some people, you see, they stop associating with people because they don't talk pleasantly to them. That's how, you see, they create a self-imposed prison, and they enter there. They withdraw from people. So this is an obstacle in spiritual life. Aversion to painful things. Sitting down and meditate for so many hours, oh, that is painful. So I won't meditate. And the fifth obstacle is clinging to life, abhinivesha. There's a story. An old woman in India somehow made a meager living by collecting windfalls from the forest. And her heart was close to that forest. She'd go to and one day there was a storm and many branches of trees fell down to the ground. She felt very happy. She thought that she could bring a lot of windfalls and then by selling them we'll get some money, she thought. And she would get some money. Then she went to the forest and made a huge bundle of windfalls. But while trying to lift that bundle, she found that she could not even lift it. What to speak of putting that load on her back? She was old and she felt so upset. Then she said, "Oh God of death." According to this story, this story is invented in India. So there is a God of death. Who is God of death? The first human being who died was made the God of death. That was the popular belief. Yama. Say, Yama, please come and take me. I don't want to live in this world. This world is suffering. Then Yama appeared. He said, come with me. And by seeing Yama, that elderly lady, she got scared. She said, no. I didn't want to go with you. But can you please somehow carry this bundle to my home? She had clinging to life. She didn't want to die. People try to cling to their life. If they hear that death is near, they become very upset. So clinging to life could be an obstacle to meditation also. Okay. There are other obstacles mentioned in the scriptures of Hinduism also. One is intense fear. A meditator suddenly feels an intense fear, uncaused fear. Or they may suddenly feel tempted by pleasurable objects. The scriptures mention that Gautama Buddha was tempted by Mara, the evil entity. I will give you so many objects of enjoyment, come with me and all. But Buddha could not be tempted. such temptations may come. So one should not fall a victim to these things. Then one will be able to meditate. Other than that, then maybe grief may come, and some state of despair may come, and nervous trembling of the body also is quite common. The body starts trembling, and then irregular breathing. These are also certain obstacles to meditation. And let me talk about hazards. There is some hazard created by the keen mind of an advanced student in meditation. I knew one gentleman, he became a friend, his name was Someswar. And he was really interested in spiritual life. And I knew him while I was a young man. He was also young. And then I had already become a monk. He used to come and talk to me. And he used to do his spiritual practice. He had gone to some guru, and I think following the advice of the guru, he used to do some spiritual practice. And one day he came to me and said, I am going to the Himalayas. I am saying, why are you going to the Himalayas? No, I'll go there and I'll get absorbed in meditation. Then I'll experience divinity. Then I wished him luck, and he went. By that time I had been sent to this country. And when I returned to India, he one day showed up. I said, you were in the Himalayas meditating, what happened to you? Then I said, you see, when I was meditating there alone, then suddenly thought came to my mind that why do I not marry? And that thought became so keen, I could not do my meditation. So I had to come back. And he told me that he had already married, but he was not highly educated, so he got an ordinary job in the railways of India, that department. And he had to make a living that way. Whenever I would visit India, he would try to have contact with me. And he was still interested in spiritual life, but his marriage had created many difficulties for him. He had children and all these things, he had to take care of them and all this. So he has a keen mind, and he was an advanced student in meditation. But somehow the thought of marriage came to his keen mind and compelled him to marry and give up his effort to meditate in order to experience divinity. And then there is another hazard. That hazard is craving praise and appreciation from others. There are some people, they want praise and appreciation. I already mentioned that a person stopped coming here because that person was not greeted by others. There are some people who stop going to churches because in the church maybe some other person said something unpleasant or did not appreciate him or her. So that's why I stopped going. So craving for praise and appreciation from others can be an obstacle to spiritual life and to meditation as well. And there are scriptures mention that there are some supernatural powers which may come to a meditator. There are, according to one description, there are 8 supernatural powers. That means, and these are called Ashtasiddhi. These are occult powers. So, what are these powers? They have the power to become as small as a molecule and penetrate solid objects. It is called anima. And some of them acquire the ability to levitate. That is called laghima. And then some of them acquire the ability to permeate everything. They permeate everything, and that is called vyapti. And some of them acquire very strong willpower. Whatever the will that happens, that is called prakamya. And another ability comes, that is called mahima, that is making the body extremely large. I don't know what gain is out of that, making the body extremely large. But that power may come. And then comes ishita, acquiring godlike powers. And then there is another obstacle, which is vashita, power to bring everyone under control. And then the 8th one is the ability to obtain whatever one desires. So one may think, oh, that is wonderful to have these powers. But no. The genuine divine incarnations, they say that getting attracted to these occult powers is an obstacle which will not allow a person to experience divinity. And also another obstacle comes, that is craving to get praised as a holy person. I'm a holy man, or I'm a saint. There is a true story. We had a Swami, very senior Swami, his name was Swami Bhaskarananda. He was at that time in his 70s and sitting on a bench in India in front of our office building. And then a lady dressed up like a Bhairavi, that means a nun of a particular monastic order, she came. She came and said and she had a trident in her hand also. And she came to the Swami and said, Swamiji, may I ask you any question? Then the Swami was very calm, and he didn't want to answer any question. So he said to her, what is your question? And that nun asked the question, then an elaborate question. Then the Swami Bhaskarananda said to her, yes, mother, why don't you give answer to that question, you yourself? Then she addressed that trident and said, Onkar, that is the name of the trident. Onkar, will I give the answer? Yes, he asked me to give the answer. Okay. Then she gave a long answer. Swami Bhaskarananda quietly sat there and heard. So she asked 3 or 4 questions, and all the questions she answered, and every time she addressed at the request of the Swami, she addressed that trident, Onkar, will I answer? She asked. And then she herself would give the answer. So Swami Bhaskarananda did not have any craving to get praise as a holy man. That's why he was saintly. And divine incarnations, they are humility personified. They do not want any praise from anybody. Jesus cured a person who was born blind, and those companions who found that person brought that person to Jesus, and he said, this person is born blind. Then Jesus, out of compassion apparently, touched the eyes of that person, and that person got eyesight. Then he said, then those companions asked Jesus, why was this person blind? Is it because of his own fault or his parents' fault? Own fault means at that time Judaism believed in reincarnation. That's why they asked. And Jesus said, no, his blindness was there to glorify God. That means that he had been healed. He had not been healed by Jesus Christ himself. It is God who had healed that blind person. That was the answer he gave. And Sri Ramakrishna also was humility personified. So, if a person lacks in humility, that person is yet to progress. And that is an obstacle to spiritual life.